My name is Matteo. I'm 22 years old. I'm a solo developer from Germany, and I've been developing games since 2020 right now. I've made a 2D platformer game called Makis Adventure. I've been developing a roguelike game called Rogue Jungle with deck building, with dungeon crawling, and roguelike elements. And also, I'm working on Pedal 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 right now, which is a co-op pedal rage game, which went pretty viral for an indie game, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty excited for the future. And also, I'm working on Ultimate Indie Racing, my indie game version of a Mario Kart. So it's basically you have a lineup of about 20 to 30 indie game characters like Krill from Another Crab's Treasure or from Billy Bust Up, for example, and other indie gems. And they will all come together in an indie crossover racing game in the future.
So he's working on a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff that I'll hopefully be sharing in the future as well. Not to backtrack before we get into all your projects you're working on. You said you're 22. You've been making games for at least the last 5 years. So did you first get into developing games at what, like 17 years old?
My journey started when I was 17 and back in school because there was lockdown due to coronavirus back then, and we spent all the day at home doing homeschooling and stuff. And I thought, why not just learn a new hobby, learn a new skill, develop a new hobby and stuff. And I've dived into game development back then, but gave up after 2 weeks. And then I just wanted to get back into it because I just really want to make games and tell my stories. And then I learned about Unity before I made with Game Maker, and Game Maker back then was not that well developed, so it was really frustrating for me to get into that. But Unity right now was my choice 5 years ago, and now I stick to Unity for the last years and try to make my own way and try to make fun games.
The first time I came across you was Makis Adventure, which was a super unique. I mean, when it comes to like genres and describing that game, I definitely I needed your help to do it, but it was a super unique the transition between boy and shark, right? The Makis Adventure game I covered. Was that your first game that you actually like fully developed, or was there one before that?
It was my first commercial game that I launched and released because back then I developed only game jams and small prototypes to just learn Unity and programming because I dived into game development without any knowledge in programming. I never did any pixel art before that, so Monkey's Adventure was my first real game. Before that, just learning, practicing, and game jams and stuff. But yeah, it was my first commercial release back then.
And you spent, I think you had told me back then, like you spent like 2 years working on that game. It wasn't just some small project. You spent a lot of time on it.
Yeah, I've spent, I think, 5 hours or 4 hours every day. I never took a day off for 2 years to develop the game because I made a lot of mistakes, had to start over after 1 year of development because my scope was wrong and too big, and I wanted to get it all down, and the pixelization was too inconsistent, so the backgrounds were way too high res for the foreground and stuff. So I made mistakes and I had to throw the project after 1 year into the trash and make it all over.
That's crazy. So when it comes to being an indie dev, are you full time developing, or are you going to school as well? Do you have side jobs, or is this your full time job now?
I wish it was, but right now I'm a student at university, so I study informatics right now, and it's my full-time stuff that I do because university takes a lot of time. But I also try to get a lot of time on game development. I try to at least spend 3 to 4 hours every day in the evenings. If it's just posting on social media, because that's also a big part as in solo dev, because you don't have a marketing team, you have to do everything. You have to make a game, you have to plan development, you have to find the resources like music, for example, because music is something that I cannot do. I haven't learned it right now, and music is the only thing that I outsource from sites on the internet. But I also pay them the license fee, of course. But everything else is done by me. So art, development, programming, publishing, marketing. It's all a lot of different skill things that you need to learn and that you have to master in the game development field. But yeah, it's a lot of time that goes into marketing, for example. I've collected over 32,000 followers on TikTok, for example, too, and try to build my own community there. And I try to post every day there. If it's just a 20 seconds video that I just record before leaving for university, it's really a spontaneous thing, marketing, but it's all taking a lot of time.
I hope when people see like this kind of content, I know like covering indie devs is a bit more niche. It's a bit more of a lesser recognized community, but it's so cool to have these conversations because you've been doing this since 16, 17 years old. You've been grinding for years. and people just see the titles come out and they're like, oh, it's an indie dev title, but they have no idea you've been doing this for so long now. And like you said, you've been a full-time student while also dedicating as much time as possible to doing all of this and then doing it all by yourself. So like it's just so crazy to have these conversations. What would you say when you're making these projects? What's one of the more difficult pieces? What's one of the more difficult parts of the process when it comes to making a game?
To be honest, keeping the motivation up is a difficult part for me because, of course, right now, Pede throws a lot of money into my direction, and I'm focusing more on the wrong directions at some points where I just think, how can I increase sales and not how can I increase the fun for the players? So getting into that field right now is a big problem for me, and I try to not care about the money but just make a fun game here. But if a game goes viral, it's really hard to stick to the unique way because back in the days I make games because of fun, and now I try to make a living out of video games because I'm finishing university in 1 year and I have to find a job or make a living from video games in this 1 year. So I try to make a direction here and go into the full-time direction right now, which is a big step for me, but I think I will do it in the end. But also keeping the motivation when you develop a game for 2 to 3 years is really hard. And I've seen people who made a game over 20 years, and I just think, how can they be motivated after 20 years of development? And at some point, you just need to get the game out, get feedback, and know people wait for the game and want to play the game. And that the time was not just you playing around in Unity because it's fun, but also because you want to deliver a fun time for people who will enjoy the game.
Yeah, it's such a weird like I'm not an indie dev. I'm not a dev at all. It's hard to like wrap my head around putting years of work into something with very little like reward, whether you're putting out a teaser or you're putting a certain element in the game where you yourself can like get a feeling out of it. Like I'm sure like the real big feeling is when you actually launch the game, which you can't do for years. So it'd be hard to source that motivation and to continue to have that motivation for such a long time throughout the process. But why we're here is because of a recent viral game that you had all hands on, that being Paddle Paddle Paddle. Can you describe this game to people out there and also kind of say like what inspired this game?
Okay, Pedal is a co-op pedal rage game. It's basically chain together, but in a physics-based pedal boat. So you have to pedal together and work together in a team to navigate a pedal boat by pedaling through a dangerous parkour filled with lava, different biomes, and it's about 7 hours of game length. So it's a really cool game length, I think, because it's not too long, but you can also finish it in one evening or 2 evenings. And yeah, it's inspired by Chain Together because in March, when I started to develop the game, I took a shower in the morning one day and thought, why not just make a rage game? Because rage games tend to do really well, and I get a lot of feedback and can make the game for the players with their ideas, with their feedback, and yeah, so I just spent, I think, 2 hours in Unity making the prototype of a pedal mechanic with multiplayer, posted it on Twitter, and it went viral with, I think, 100,000 views in, I think, 2 hours. And a lot of good feedback, a lot of ideas on how to improve the game, and also some first press sites posting about the game, like Daily Mail from Daily Mail Gaming, who posts the game on TikTok, on Twitter, and also on their website. So it was a really big step for me to get coverage on a game that early and get that much attention on the game. And I thought, why not just make this game in 2 weeks then? I then made the demo in 2 weeks, released the demo, and it went viral in Germany. Big streamers like Paraplatte, Zabex and Schradin, which are also pretty big here, and I also watch them every day when they stream. So when they played the game, it was a really big thing for me and really big motivation because I watch their videos and streams every day, and now they play my game. It was a big sign for me that this game could go viral and make a cool video game in the end. So then I spent 3 months to develop the game, 4 months, but 3 months after demo launch because the whole development took about 4 months from beginning to mid March to mid July, and the launch was in end of July, so about 4 months to develop the whole game. And it really was worth it, I think, because players enjoy the game. I didn't really get into feature creep. I made the game that I want to make without getting into too many ideas and too many features in. And I just made the perfect development length, I think.
And so from the first like inception, like when you thought about this game to the game actually coming out, how long was that timeline?
When the first post about the game came online, it was in I think 1 week after development when the first playable version was playable. But the it was 4 months. Or what do you mean exactly?
So like from when you first thought, I know you said 4 months of development, but
Yeah.
from when you first thought of the game to actually launching the game, that was 4 months, or was there more time there?
No, 4 months.
Four
4 months
months.
for the whole development. So nothing was spent after that. Only the post-launch updates and stuff.
And so all of a sudden you launch this game and you start going viral, you start getting traction. What's the response on your side? Like how do you cope with that? Like what do you do?
It was crazy for me because back I only released Makis Adventure before that, and this game did okay for an indie game, but nothing big. I just learned a lot. But then launching a big game like Pede Pede Pede, which the sales for Makis Adventure's lifetime were for Pede 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 in a few hours. So it was a really crazy thing to me. And I still remember when I started to play some Overwatch after launching the game, and then after one round I refreshed the unit sold button, and it was crazy to see that on the first day, I think 5,000 people already bought the game, which is pretty crazy for me. And it's absolutely, for me, it's a really big milestone. It was really, I still cannot believe that because right now I'm crushing one milestone that I had after another one, and it's going so well. Big people play the game, big streamers, and it feels like a dream.
And so recently you also broke, I mean, this is crazy. Like it really did start to snowball out of nowhere. You recently broke 50,000 sales, which for an indie dev, I mean, that's remarkable. Like you definitely just built yourself a good resume piece right there. But to break 50,000 sales, what does that mean to you? And then what are you continuing to add on to this game to keep the newcomers coming, but also keep the current fan base satisfied if they want to return to the game?
It was my big dream and big hope to get into 50,000 sales in the lifetime. But when I had that in 1 month, it was absolutely crazy for me. And I know that the game will be out for, I think, a few more months, making a lot of people happy. But I also know that rage games tend to fall off at some point, and people don't care about that. And I really not want that, so I will work on more maps, more content, more game modes, for example. I can also say right now there will be a racing mode where you can play against other people and race on smaller tracks like a Mario Kart round. So I think 2 to 3 minutes to complete the round, and it's just about the best time. You have a leaderboard for every map, so you can compete around the best time and stuff. And it's good for speedrunners, I think. But I also really want to get a level editor in there because I played Happy Wheels back in the days, and Happy Wheels has an unlimited lifetime because people create content for the game, and the developer don't have to create content right now because people just make content and make their maps and share them. So I want at some point that people can make their own Pede maps, and I really want to have a feature complete level editor at some point, maybe this year still. I have it on my list right now, but I don't know how long it will take because I made a level editor for my previous game, Makis Adventure, and it took for this platformer game half a year to make that. And I can already see that a level editor for Pede could take a year, for example, to because of a really big feature. But a level editor, a racing mode, and other game modes will also be in the game soon.
And I think people love to hear like indie dev stories too because we don't know how like the finances and all of this stuff works. All we see is you put in a number of months, the game is doing really well, but 50,000 plus units sold. But it's a really affordable game, like a super affordable party game that you can pick up with anyone for a few bucks, and it's like really, really accessible. So I think people would love to know, like, if you're willing to share, how much have you put into this project? How much are you getting out of it? Because 50,000 sounds like a huge number, but I'm sure it's probably a lot less than people might expect. Like being an indie dev is a pure grind. So can you share more of that information?
I can share something, yeah, because I spent only time into the game. I made all the things myself, so I didn't spend on music except for my fee that is done by every month. So I think $50 if you want to say that, because there's a music fee that I pay to the site for every month, and I just took one song from there, so it's $50 right now. But other than that, only the time that I spent, which is 4 months. So I made the calculation, and in Germany it's like 2 to 3 thousand euros for living in a month. So I wanted to calculate it, and I spent about 12,000 euros on the development than if I have full time salary in the time, you know. And I made the break even point in less than a week, so it was a really profitable project for me. but I can say 50,000 units sold. It's six figures gross revenue right now, more than six figures, but I really don't want to share the exact value because I think I don't really care about money, but more about the people that have fun with the game, But that's what I want to share.
Okay, yeah, and thank you for doing that because I don't often ask, but I feel like I'm going to start asking because I'm curious if people can share. Because again, you put a large amount of time into this game. You've also put a lot of time into other games that have maybe not been this successful. So, not every game you put out is going to be a hit. So I'm sure it matters when one really does hit. But also, like I've always been curious because Steam takes their cut. Like Steam takes a pretty hefty cut of all of these projects too. So I'm sure that that takes a little bite out of things.
Yeah, it's all it's for me it's like the Steam cut, which is 30%, a publisher cut, which I cannot leak because it's an under NDA, but it's also taxes in Germany, which is pretty high, and also the calculation fee of calculating the dollars into euros and transforming it because I'm in Germany right now, so I have a German and euros on my bank account. So calculating and transforming the dollars from Steam into the euros also take a bit of money away from me. So it's all just
So
not my money right now.
So, six-figure gross revenue, is that not including the cuts and
Not
minor?
including, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's a
Okay.
lot less in the end.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just so people get like a better picture of all of that. That's cool though, and it's also cool to see that you've had the success and you want to keep on adding to the product, but you also know the lifespan of the product. You know this is not the end goal. So like like you said, full time I'm sure is your end goal, but can you speak more to that? Like taking off this success, what do you want to be next for yourself?
Right now, I want to spend more time on developing more content, but I also want to keep up with my next projects, and I don't want to spend too much time on Pede because I have still a lot of projects in my backlog, and at some point, I think after I'm done with my content that I want to build into the game, it's more it has more goal to just make my own games and not just spend more years on Pede because it was one success, but I really don't want it to be the last success. So I really want to add more into my portfolio, and I want that Zoroarts has a lot of games in the catalog in a few years, and I really want to get my own company at some point and build a big portfolio of video games that people enjoy.
Yeah, we should definitely talk more in the future about all your future projects. I'm gonna leave it on this one though. For anyone who has seen your story, who is the old you, they're 16, they're 17, they're getting into game development, and they see a solo dev like yourself succeed with a project. Like, can you give some inspiration or maybe some motivation to other people out there who are aspiring to be a solo dev like yourself?
If I want to talk it to myself back in 3 years ago, I just want to say never give up. Believe in your dreams because that's what I did. I never gave up. I had 0% day, so I spent every day developing video games because it's my passion and my love hobby. So I just really love it. Love to make video games, build my own worlds, and people should just not listen to other people. Make your dream come true and believe in yourself, and in the end it will work out because that's what that did for me too. And I never stopped believing into my projects. And of course you will have some failed projects that make not enough money to make a living of that, but you will learn from this project and you will evolve from this project. So you should just not care about that and just continue to make games because for some people it can take 10 games to make one successful game. For me it was also not the first game that made really big, but you should never give up. That's what I want to say.
Boom. We'll leave it there, Zoro. That was lit. That was awesome. I just wanted to hit record before I start freaking out. My dude, Zoro.
Hey, hey.
It's about
Now we finally see in person.
it's about time we did this, huh?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I just wanted to say before we even get into it, it's an honor. It's been awesome to see like your growth and everything over the past like what 2 or 3 years. So it's cool that we're finally doing this.
It's an honor for me to be here. I've been following your content longer than I'm developing games, I think. So